Ms. Vaughn, I need to go into open session, or the opening of the swearing in. Are we ready? We- I'm ready for roll. I'm ready for roll call.
Okay. Mr. Hikes,
Here.
Ms. Hubbard,
Here.
Ms. Val, Ms. Jones,
Present.
Mr. Davis,
Present.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes,
We have a quorum.
thank you. We're going to go into the swearing ceremony. Mr. or Judge Christopher McGraw, am I saying that right? Presiding Circuit, City of St. Louis. Can you come forward, please? And our newly voted board member, Mr. Ben, can you step forward, please?
Hold this with your left hand. I will be using your right hand.
Sounds good.
My hands are otherwise occupied.
Sounds good.
So would you please raise your right hand? Please state it after me. I state your name.
I, Ben Conover,
Do hereby swear
do hereby swear
upon my oath
upon my oath
that I will not hold
that I will not hold
any other elected office
any other elected office
in the city of St. Louis,
in the city of St. Louis
or state of Missouri,
or state of Missouri,
that I possess
all the qualifications
all the qualifications
required by state law
to serve as a member
to serve as a member
of the Board of Education
of the City of St. Louis.
I am not a party
I am not a party
to any contract
with
or claim
against the board, either directly or indirectly. I will not, while serving as a member of the board, become interested in any contract with or claim against the board, directly or indirectly, or as an agent or an employee of any individual, firm, or corporation which is so interested. I will not be influenced during my term of office by any consideration except that of merit and fitness in the appointment of officers and the engagement of employees. I will faithfully fulfill all duties of the office of school board member and will serve the St. Louis Public Schools to the best of my abilities as such. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Judge McGraw. Could you please stay standing, sir? I know you're ready to come take your seat and get to work already. Not just yet, it's photo time, photo time. If we can, if the family would like to go and take pictures and get your photos in at this time, and we're gonna go into a brief recess. You have like about 5 minutes. So we're gonna go into recess. Thank you.
catch up, like.
It works. Okay. I got you. I'm going too late.
Alrighty, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to ask that you all bear with us. If you notice, we have moved over to technology, trying to do everything technology to save the trees. And the board is all learning, navigating through our new diligence community software. So I'm going to go and move forward and ask for a motion to approve January 28th, 2025 minutes.
I'll move to approve the January 28th, 2025 work session minutes.
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion approved.
I need a motion to approve no,
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Conover.
he would just
I wasn't here,
abstain.
yeah.
He would just abstain.
I would
He wasn't
abstain,
here.
yeah.
Okay.
That's
I'm
okay.
so
You're
sorry.
fine. You're fine. I need a motion to approve February the 11th, 2025 work session minutes.
They're the regular minutes.
I can't see none. I'm sorry. The regular minutes, board minutes.
I'll move to approve the February 11th, 2025 regular business meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover?
Thank you.
Abstain.
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion approved.
I need a motion to approve February 14th, governance committee minutes. No, I don't. I need a motion to approve February 18th minutes, special board of education minutes.
I'll move to approve the February 18th, 2025 special board of education minutes.
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover?
Abstain.
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion approved.
This is not working for me. Y'all drive me crazy. All right, we'll go into spirit of excellence. Thank you. I want to once again welcome Mr. Ben Conover. You're in for a treat. Tonight, I'm honored to introduce our newest board member, Mr. Ben Conover. Mr. Conover brings with him a deep commitment to public education, both as an educator and as an advocate. As an instructor and doctoral student in philosophy at St. Louis University, he is no stranger to the transformation power of education. More than that, he comes from a long line of educators and has dedicated himself to ensuring that St. Louis Public Schools remain strong, well-supported, and centered on the needs of students and families. Through his work with Solidarity with SLPS, He has already played a role in protecting our district resources and standing against efforts to privatize public education. His experience in data science, political organizing, and advocacy demonstrates his ability to analyze challenges, engage stakeholders, and work toward meaningful solutions. On behalf of the Board of Education, I want to thank Mr. Conover for stepping up to serve in this important role. We look forward to his insight, his passion, and his partnership as we continue working toward the success of our students, our educators, and our community. Once again, welcome, Mr. Conover.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. Borda Shadade.
Good evening. This is Dr. Boris Shade. Tonight, the spirit of excellence shines on Sumner High School Bulldogs, where students are making waves in both the arts and historical research, proving once again that excellence is a tradition. Sumner students showcase their artistic talents in the Link Incorporated St. Louis, Missouri chapter's student art exhibition in partnership with St. Louis Artworks and North St. Louis Art Council. Their powerful perspectives on what freedom means to me earned them top honors. Second place was Seven Knox. Third place was Javion Johnson. Honorable mention was Janiyah Wilson for the film Black Bosses in Film. Next, Sumner's Living Arts Museum Studies student make history at the 2025 National History Day St. Louis Regional Competition at UMSL on February 15th. Under the leadership of Mr. Mac Williams III, they delivered a standout performance. 10 projects placed in the top 3. 18 students qualified for the state competition. Notable winners include first place Dakota Scott in performance, Raymond Wilson and team in exhibit, and Elise Rocondo in website. Second place, multiple students in performance, exhibit, and research papers categories. Sumner's growth in this competition has been remarkable. In 2023, 4 students qualified for state. In 2024, that number grew to 7. And this year, in 2025, 18 students are moving on to the state competition. With each passing year, Sumner students continue to raise the bar, proving that Bulldogs are not just making history, they are shaping the future. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Borda Shadade. Okay, I'm sorry. Now we'll go into your reports and presentations.
Thank you, President Cousins. I just want to give a brief update on some things that we are working on. I want to say in November, the board approved a contract to work with RCI. RCI has been doing our fixed inventory asset project, if you will. And so they have shared some things, and I just wanted to give a summary of the things that are going on with that in terms of a timeline. And the reason that I'm giving a summary is because this is all a part of some of the requests that we are receiving as it relates to our audits. So there has been an inventory process. I want to say in December, January, they have been working in the schools, taking into account all of the fixed assets that we have. The goal is for them to be done sometime in March, perhaps April. And once they are done inventorying our assets, they will give us a write-up, a summary of the things that we need to do. It is going to be important as we work really, really hard to make sure that we have a moving forward process so that any asset that is brought into St. Louis Public Schools worth $5,000 or more, that we have a way of inventorying the assets. There has not been an asset inventory for a number of years. So just imagine how many things they are giving us, they are inventory. And so I just wanted to I just wanted to share an update on that. In terms of our state audit, we are continuing to work diligently to meet all of the requests that the state audit has, all of the items that the state audit has asked us for. I think we have maybe 10 more items. Hopefully that will then close out the first section of the state audit, and I know that they said that there is going to be another one. Then I want to share, in terms of the Department of Justice, St. Louis Public Schools was awarded 2 grants in 2020. St. Louis Public Schools was awarded 2 grants in 2020 by the Department of Justice. And we are working to make sure that we can finish out being rewarded the grants. There are things that they have asked us for, and we are working to make sure that we can get them those things in 2025.
So, in regards to the Department of Justice grant, what is the amount of the grant and what does it correlate to?
Great questions. I'm gonna find that information. Is it possible to come back? We do the
Yes.
academics and then we'll come back to that.
And in regards to RCI, you're saying that this is a outside entity that we use to do inventory for all items that the district owns that's over $5,000?
Yes.
So that is checking even, that would be checking our warehouse and all the schools, the operating schools as well as the non-operating schools?
All of it.
Okay. And this goes back to 2000 and,
For the RCI, this goes back to all of the items that we own.
all the items that we own, okay.
All of the items.
That's 5,000 and over?
Yes.
To do inventory?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Watson, did you want to add anything to that?
As part of the RCI, I mean, again, as it was stated, does an inventory of all of our assets. And they are looking at all of our facilities, open and closed, including the warehouse.
I had a question. So all the assets that are under $5,000, just say for instance, all of our laptops, all of our computers, all of our furnishings, anything under 5,000, how do we
Discard 'em.
inventory that?
That will be something that we need to work out.
Okay.
And if I recall, was this an audit finding for our annual audit for the last couple of years?
This was an audit finding for our audits for the last couple of years.
And Reuben Brown's recommendation was to go with an outside firm and just tackle this now and then
Do
keep
it.
up with it.
Yes.
And then, if I also recall, as part of our updated finance policies, we updated the policy on keeping this inventory, is that right?
Correct. That is part of our policies, which is located in our document library.
Thanks.
So let me go back now. So the awards was, the first one, safety enhancements, was $251,341. And then the second award was training to decrease student violence. That was $500,446.
Was this the money that we were gonna use for, I forget what it was called, but the entry management sort of, hardware and,
Yeah. The,
Rapture,
it wasn't Raptor, it was
No, it
the other
wasn't
one.
Rapture.
but yeah.
Navigate,
Navigate.
360. Yes,
Is this was the money that we were gonna use for that?
this was it.
Okay, so we're waiting to get these grants and then we'll be able to purchase those and implement that? Is that still the plan, or has the plan changed?
So the grant has been awarded to us. However, we are working through some things. The reason why I am bringing this up is because this was a grant that was awarded to us in 2020. It is 2025, and we are still working through making sure that we do all the things necessary to draw down the grant money. And so we're working through that now.
Is the hope, though, still to use that money for that system?
Yes,
Or a system of that magnitude.
a system of that magnitude.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding Dr. Borda Shaday's report? Are you ready to go into your presentation, your presenters?
Yes. Dr. Dino is going to give us an academic update. She's going to be bringing forth some students to talk about our early college academy.
Good evening, President Cousins, Vice President Davis, members of the board, Dr. Bodhi Shade. I'm here to share an academics update this evening. The SLPS strategic values are present in all of the work of the academics team, and we focus all of our efforts to support students and schools on the student success goals. Our portrait of graduate competencies represent all that we work towards for all of our students every day, and we're really excited to have two of them here today to talk to you about their experiences. The agenda tonight is we have students from our early college academy at St. Louis Community College here to speak with you. As shared previously, we have several dual enrollment programs, and each month we'll be highlighting students from one of them until you've seen them all by the end of the school year. I also have two more pillars to share evidence of. As a reminder, our Transformation Plan 4.0 has 5 pillars, and each month I'm bringing forward the evidence towards those pillars. Currently, there are 65 students across all 10 high schools in St. Louis Public Schools enrolled in our early college academy at St. Louis Community College. Students can participate in their junior and their senior year. They select their courses jointly with their counselor. We're not just giving them the whole community college handbook and saying, pick what you want to take. It's really a guided process for them. In order to be eligible, you'll see they're pretty rigorous standards. Students must maintain a 3.25 or above GPA, have to have 90% attendance, and excellent citizenship, a qualifying AccuPlacer test score. Currently, we have 36 seniors and 29 juniors enrolled. As always, we're looking for how we can expand and make these opportunities more available or more enticing to lots of students. Our next steps include this summer piloting a summer AccuPlacer prep course at St. Louis Community College Forest Park for any interested and eligible students who are rising juniors, hopefully to try to help them get in the door, and providing more exposure to ECA for our 9th and 10th graders, possibly via field trips or other school visits. Without further ado, I want to invite our students to come forward. We have 2 students tonight. Both of them are seniors at CSMB. We have Miriam Sabah and Zainab Al-Husseini, and I'm going to invite them forward to share about their experiences at Early College Academy. Both of you. Yep, thank you.
Hi, my name is Miriam Saba. I am a senior at Collegiate School of Medicine Bioscience, and I'm also an Early College Academy kid. The Early College Academy has taught me many things as an upcoming college student. It prepared me for the challenges for college before I began my journey to my bachelor's at a 4-year college. I was offered courses that I wouldn't have been able to take at my high school that were able to challenge me more and at a faster pace. It offered me an opportunity to create a more flexible schedule and to manage my work-life schedule. Early College Academy gave me a foot in the door and allowed me to finish high school with a diploma and an associate's degree. Not only has it given me an amazing experience and challenged me, but it has also made my future college experience shorter and more affordable. I'm grateful that I was able to take courses that otherwise would have costed me greatly, and I believe that this program is very life-changing for students like me who are struggling financially but still prioritize their education. Not only that, but I had an amazing community around me that supported me. Ms. O'Keefe, my college advisor, has been one of my biggest supporters as I took my classes, experienced hardships out of school, and navigated my next steps to pursuing a higher education. I had great guidance, and I also was able to connect with my professors during their office hours, which was really helpful. Being able to connect with professors gave me the ability to build networks and hear about additional opportunities. Along my journey, I have met amazing professors who have advised me and supported me throughout my experience at Early College Academy. Having the opportunity to be in classes such as human biology, philosophy, and calculus are opportunities that students like me in the St. Louis area need, especially when their public high school lacks the resources to allow them to academically challenge themselves. Additionally, having fast-paced classes has allowed me to take more math classes than my high school could have offered. Through my 2 years at St. Louis Community College, I was able to take pre-calculus, calculus, and statistics. I highly recommend the Early College Academy for its coursework opportunities, its community, and the experience that has taught me better study habits.
Hi. Hi, my name is Zainab, and I'm a senior in high school, and I do early college at Forest Park. And I just want to start by saying that I love early college so much. And the thing that early college has taught me the most is time. Time is so valuable. And there's an Arabic proverb that goes, الوقت كالسيف إذا لم قطعته يقطعك. And that basically means, direct translation is that if time is a sword, if you don't cut it, it will cut you. And so what I learned is that doing my things on time, I get a reward after. But when I was in high school, since I had classes from 8 a.m. till 3 p.m. When I got off school, I still had homework, and I didn't start the homework till let's say I started at 4 p.m. I went to collegiate, so it was a college prep school, and homework took 3 to 5 hours every day. And so by the time I was done, it was nighttime, and I was free, but I didn't have free time. I didn't get to do like what I would say a regular teenager would get to do in their free time. And so I would always procrastinate my stuff because okay, I'll just start at 8 p.m. because I didn't really have to do anything to do after. And with the free time that I did the most I could do was play games maybe, or just sit upstairs with my mom. I didn't really have free time. I didn't actually get to live my teenage life. I truly feel like I didn't really start living my teenage years until early college, especially as I'm transitioning into adulthood. And so my first year at early college, my first semester, I would start all my homework assignments super late, but I always submitted it at 11:59 p.m. I have screenshots, I swear. As time went on, though, at early college, I realized I had so much time, so much valuable time. I left my classes, either I would start really early and finish also early, or I could start it later in the day, but also still leave early. And with that free time, I didn't just play games. I got to read, I got to hang out with my pets, with my family. I got to, this is such a side note, but my winter break was longer. But I got to go to places that didn't close early, because when I was in high school, things closed early by the time I was doing with my homework. But at early college, I have so much free time. I actually got to do things, and I was free, and I do all my homework as soon as it's given to me. I have the same amount of homework, and the same amount is everything's the same, but the only thing that's different is time. Time is so valuable, and I truly thank early college for giving me the opportunity. Every time a high schooler comes up to me and tells me they're in sophomore year or in their freshman year, the first thing I tell them is, are you in public school? Are you in St. Louis Public School? If so, you need to do this. This is an awesome opportunity. I cannot begin to explain to you how valuable it is. I got close with so many of my friends, and the people there, and the friends that I did make at early college, I knew they were right for me because they had the same goals as me. They were all here for a reason because they cared about their school, their GPA, their attendance. They were good people that cared about their grades, and they were career oriented. They had goals. They had an achievement in their mind. And those are people I want to associate myself with. And so again, I want to thank Early College so much for giving me this opportunity. Oh, one more thing actually. I actually get to work and save money while I'm in early college. High school would have never let me do that, especially with the job that I have now that is only available in the morning. Early college lets me do that. Thank you so much, Early College, for giving me this opportunity. I love you guys so much. And that's love to share with you. Thanks.
Are there any questions for both the young ladies? Any
Can
questions?
you both come back up in case there's questions?
I just want to
Thank
say
you.
great job. And when you think about a portrait of a graduate, here our students are. Thank you. Great job.
Thank
Board
you.
Member Ben?
Yeah, thank you so much. That was great. Thank you both so much.
Come back. Board Member Hikes?
Sorry about that. I just have a question. Both of you were very animated, but if you had the chance to go to a middle school and talk to middle school on their way to high school, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, like specifically about this program.
Yes, ma'am.
I would say that this program allows. I would recommend it to them by basically explaining that not only do they get the opportunity to take the classes they would have taken in high school, but they would have actually been able to take more than they would have been even had available. For example, for me personally, I was never interested in philosophy, but then I heard about the philosophy classes that were available to me as an early college academy student. And so I started taking them, and that's how I started getting into like a lot of philosophy concepts, and that's how I actually started reading more into Dostoevsky's books, because he in a lot of his books he talked about like moral, like had a lot of moral questions, and questioned a lot of concepts that were considered out of the norm back then. And so I would say that it gives you way more opportunities to explore what you like while also having to like go through high school, and you're able to actually not only do that, but also you get to have like this close community because it's such a small amount of people. You get to know classmates that are near you so much better. And your class, like itself, like the early college students themselves, were really close to each other because we're all kind of in the same place.
For me, I would say opportunities, take them. And I say that because I almost didn't. The reason I was like a hair away from not doing early college for the sole reason that I wanted the high school experience. But like, I really want thank my mom. She's the only reason I did early college. She was like, do it. You have to do it. It is an opportunity. You need to do it. Because she was like, what is the high school experience that you're afraid of missing out on? You can still do clubs. Those are still an option. But then also like the workload, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., 5 days a week. That's more commitment. And also like I really sat and thought about it. I don't know if I'd really tell this to a middle schooler, but a lot of my high school, like those 2 years at high school were tears. Like that was my experience. It was a lot of workload. Yes, it was a college prep school, but I really do think that early college was easier than high school. I really do think that. Maybe it was just collegiate specifically because that was my experience, but it's a lot of pressure. And you don't really get to live out, again, your teenage years, you know what I mean? Those are really significant. I found a part of myself in early college. I really do think I did. Friends-wise and family-wise, academically, so many classes I actually got to take, like as you said earlier, weren't offered at collegiate, and it's a good opportunity. And so would I recommend to middle schoolers early college? Yes. But then even if it wasn't just that, if it was a similar thing, I would also say yes. It's an opportunity. Take it. even though it means not being able to experience certain things, for me it was those 2 years at high school, in the high school environment, as a high school student. That's the only thing that I got to miss out on, but it was worth it. Yeah.
I have a question. So what would have helped you during your high school years so that you would not have missed those 2 years that you speak of? Because they are important. High school was something you never forget. So what do you think a high school could do to help students when they're in that program?
I would definitely say being more inclusive towards a lot of those kids, because a lot of the time we're only really able to come in during their lunch hours, and we'd sometimes have after school activities. However, a lot of the time the connection between your past teachers and a lot of the connections that you have from there begin to kind of dissipate, so you can try to still be interested. You can still show up to clubs. However, it feels like whenever you do this program, you kind of get judged by others for it, because not only are you missing out on experience, you're missing out on these teachers who are amazing, but you want to pursue more. And so it feels like sometimes they're distance, like being more encouraging towards us coming to more school events, or letting me know about the senior events that we have, because a lot of our senior events I missed because I didn't know they were happening.
So you're saying that it would help if Lifeline was created between you when you joined the program to help you keep in touch?
I would say so, yes, but at the same time, it's good to keep in mind that although some say that you lost the high school experience, to someone like me, I would say that for some people that might feel essential and that might be what takes them back. However, I did develop a community at Early College Academy, and I get to be closer to my peers. And so I've developed these great relationships with my peers where we know each other more personally, and we see each other every day still, and we get to form those bonds. And even if sometimes you're not able to go to certain events, you're still able to go to those clubs and activities. And even alongside your high school activities, they offer activities at STLCC as well. And we even created an Early College Academy somewhat like group. And so it's currently led by one of our peers. And it's kind of an interest group where we talk about our experience as Early College Academy kids, and we also want to encourage others to become Early College Academy kids.
So do you speak to the entire school when you talk about your experiences?
I talk about my personal experiences and other people who've had those personal experiences with a lot of the kids that I've talked to. However, some people might feel differently. However, for me personally, as an ECA kid, one of my biggest things has always been to prioritize my education and be able to focus on those like rigorous colleges and be able to have more opportunities or time to invest in opportunities such as trying to apply to like clinical jobs, which could have started earlier when I could have been and had to stay to school till 2 p.m. I could have come in earlier. And so things such as pharmacy tech jobs would be easier for me to obtain.
I was actually going to say the exact same thing as her. I do agree with her like 100%. There was, I would say, like a little bit of stigma towards us, a little bit. I don't know. When we'd go to like take our like a test or something at collegiate, I thought this was just me. Like when I'd go there, I'd get like side eyes and people would look at me weird. And I even felt like some of the teachers were, I don't know, something was off. But then I'd go back to early college and everybody was saying the same exact thing. And I was like, oh, me too. Like, that's the same thing that happened to me. So that is kind of off-putting and very, like I have to go pick up my brother from school sometimes from collegiate. I do not like going there anymore because of the looks that I get. And I think that says a lot. And I'm just parked outside. And when I do go inside to go get him, oh my God, I have to prepare myself in the car. So I 100% agree with everything she just said, because that there is a little bit of stigma towards this, and I don't know why. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We did it. Done. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. Alrighty, hard to follow students. I know, not quite as exciting. Thank you so much for coming. Now I'll provide an update on our current district level school improvement plan. As a reminder, it's called Transformation Plan 4.0. We have 5 pillars that represent 20 different goals. The last time I was here, I talked about pillars 1 and 2. Tonight I'll be sharing information about pillars 3 and 4, and at a future session I'll be sharing about pillar 5. Pillar 3, cultivating leaders who foster culturally responsive learning environments. This specific goal is around professional development for leaders. This year, professional development supports effective culturally responsive learning environments, specifically through PD on gradual release instruction, science of reading, English language development, and relational leadership, among others. Those are just 4 that were rising up. We know that when we can provide leaders with learning on instruction, they can then see and understand what's happening in their classrooms and their schools, and they can support their teachers to have even higher quality instruction in the classroom. All school leaders are participating in this PD this year. The next goal in Pillar 3 is also related to culture responsive learning environments. This is about our annual retention rate of having at least 85% of our teaching workforce and 90% of our teachers of color retained. You'll note here between 2021 and 2024, 83% of our overall teaching staff was retained, and in 2023, 2024, 82% of our teachers of color and 83% of our male teachers. This next goal within Pillar 3, focusing on coaching support and it being seen by the folks who are receiving that support as being satisfactory or above on our Panorama survey. Our spring 2024 data showed that overall 57% of staff rated professional learning as favorable, and you'll note here that our goal by the end of this year is for it to be 75% of staff. We have not taken our spring Panorama survey data yet, so I don't have that information for you today, but we'll be able to share that after the second survey in the spring. Next goal within Pillar 3 is that all leaders will receive training to support, implement proactive and restorative culture responsive practices. This goal is around lessening the number of out-of-school suspensions. If we can, as schools, appropriately intervene and respond to students before behaviors get really big, then we can help teach children better tools in their toolbox. Conflicts are going to arise. They do for all of us in life. It's not a matter of avoiding them, it's a matter of how do we manage them when they come forward, and so we need to work on that with students. You'll note here that our out-of-school suspension rate continues to decline. This year, we are on pace to have less out-of-school suspensions than we did last year as well.
Dr. Dino, can you
Yes.
tell me what is causing, or how are we able to have less suspensions?
Say that again, sorry.
What has caused the less school suspensions? Is there some mechanism that's been put in place, or what's being used?
So I don't think it's any one thing other than the big umbrella of adult responses to student behaviors. And I'm not talking about what happens when a student fights. It's about what happens before so that students don't even get to the point where they are going to engage in a fight. We have schools engaged in different peer mediation activities. We have social workers and counselors who are working with students through whatever types of supports individual students may need, or small groups of students. We have students who engage in social groups so that they can learn to work well with others. So while it's not any one specific tool, I think the biggest lever that we're accessing is changing our adult responses to children so that maybe they don't escalate in one sense and in another sense, so that our students know how to navigate through different things that happen in schools.
Thank you.
I went too far ahead. So you see a lot of color on this graph. We're moving into pillar 4, which says ensuring students learn to read and succeed. This goal 1 is that by 2026, a minimum of 90% of our pre-K4 scholars will demonstrate mastery of kindergarten readiness skills. What you see here, even though the print is really small, are the 2 columns on the left represent students who have had no pre-K experiences before they get to kindergarten, and the pillars on the 2 columns on the right are students who've had pre-K experiences before they get to kindergarten. The blue and green bars across the top represent meeting or exceeding those standards at the beginning of the year on STAR Early Literacy. You'll note that our students who did not have a preschool experience had 24% of those students demonstrated mastery or above, and our students who had a preschool experience more than doubled that at 51% or above. So preschool matters, and we can see that really clearly here. And so that's why it's really important for our entire scope and sequence. Doesn't start in kindergarten, but it starts in preschool. We have a robust early learning program. We want to grow that and have that for all students. And we have lots that go unused every year, maybe because it's not in a parent's preferred school or something, but our data shows us that when our students attend preschool, they are so much better set off for when they get to kindergarten. And so that's evident here.
Dr. Dino?
Yes.
Just a quick question. So with the students that have IEPs in pre-K, it looks like the growth was a little smaller. Do you have any explanation for that, or do we know anything about the causes there?
I don't have any specific details about those causes right now. What I do notice on the slide is in between the preschoolers with IEPs who did not attend pre-K and the preschoolers who did attend pre-K, we had far more in that exceed category. And so what we need to look at is what worked for them so that we can replicate that for others.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
This next graph says that by our goal here says by the end of 2026, each scholar will have access to grade level content within current curriculum resources 100% of the time. And so how do we measure that? One way to measure that is to see what mastery of grade level content looks like at the end of a school year, because we can't expect students to master content that they haven't been taught. If we have first grade students, we want to be teaching first grade content. These showcase the 22-23 and 23-24 school year numbers and percentages of students who made the equivalent of 1 year's growth, because that's what we were tracking at that time. You'll note that in each year, we had a roughly 38% of students who made at least 1 year's worth of growth in both years. I just also want to draw our attention to the fact that for this school year, our goal is to make 2.5 years worth of growth, because 1 year worth of growth when you're behind isn't enough to catch up. And so when I come back in March to see you again, I'll have our mid-year data on our STAR for this school year to showcase where we are towards meeting that trajectory. But these 2 sets of data are around 1 year's worth of growth for 22-23 and 23-24, because that's what we were measuring at the time that these goals were written. Other things that are really important as we ensure students learn to read and to succeed, this goal 3A is around both graduating seniors and 9th graders. what happens after. You'll note it says our goal is by 2026 for 95% of graduating seniors to be positively placed per DESE standards. You might wonder, what does positively placed means? That means that a student's experience after high school is aligned to the pathway that they chose in high school. And so we look to see where students are enrolled, enlisted, or employed after they leave us. And during the 2024 school year, 88% of students were positively placed, meaning they were doing something in alignment with what their high school pathway was. It may be that a student is enlisted, but that wasn't their pathway, so it doesn't count as being positively placed, but it's still a great thing that they're doing. Or it may be that they have a job that isn't related to what their high school pathway was. But it doesn't mean they're not doing something. But 88% of our students in 2024 were positively placed. That means the pathways that we're offering them for the most part are a great indicator of where they go and what they choose after they leave us. Another thing we know about ninth graders in particular is ninth grade on track is a really great metric for whether or not students are going to graduate from high school on time. And the goal that was written here is that by 2026, 95% of our ninth graders would have a GPA of 2.0 or higher at the end of their ninth grade year. In 2024, we were at 65.4%, so we have some work to go to do there. Part of ensuring that students have lots of options and that their pathways, they can be positively placed in their pathways when they leave us, is to ensure we have a lot of CTE class curriculum offerings. We continue to grow in that area as well. In 2023, 2024, we had 256 course offerings, and this school year, we're up to 348 course offerings. So we do listen to what our students say, and we are working to have a lot of different options so that every student can find something that works for them in St. Louis Public Schools. This goal relates to high leverage technology integration strategies. In 2022, we took baseline data using the Technology Integration Matrix tool. There were 676 responses representing 100% of grades and almost 100% of schools. We will continue to work with our technology department on our next steps for this, especially now that we have a new chief technology officer. But you'll note at the time we had 19% of staff who were not using technology at all. I think if we were to do this again today, and we will be working on that, we'll see definitely that number decreased, and we see a lot of, when we're in classrooms, we definitely see a lot of adoption and adaption levels. Pillar 4 is related to our English language learners and both their growth in English language proficiency and their attainment of English language proficiency. In Missouri, if a school has 30 or more English learners enrolled in their school for 3 consecutive years, then they're held accountable to some specific growth and proficiency targets. In St. Louis, we have 18 schools in the 2022-2023 school year that met both of those thresholds, 30 plus English learners and having had that number for at least 3 consecutive years. Our goal was to see 5% of those students demonstrating progress in learning English, and progress means moving up levels on the access assessment. We had 9 of our 18 schools meet that target. However, the district overall did not meet the target. We increased by 1% as a district instead of 5. As we look into what worked at the schools where it did work, we see co-teaching strategies and sheltered instruction observation protocol, professional learning that teachers have access to being utilized regularly, and we see fidelity of implementation to our 3 high leverage English learner practices of content and language objectives being taught simultaneously, meaning we don't believe anymore you have to learn English before you can learn math. We know that your brain works and you can learn them both at the same time, so how are we seeing evidence of that? How are we providing linguistic supports for students so that they can access grade level content? And key here is the idea of interaction, which you've also heard us talk about across the district in terms of academic discourse. Learning is a social activity. All students need to be talking to each other in order to learn more. When we're in the classroom and we see the teacher doing the majority of the talking, like I'm doing here, it means that the students are not carrying the cognitive load, and they have to engage in that productive struggle in order to be able to learn and master their standards. Our next English language learner goal relates to proficiency. So this is the number of students who can become reclassified as fluent English proficient based on the assessment. Again, we had 18 schools for whom that we are tracking this data as required by the state. 6 of those schools met that growth target and the district did not. We were looking for a 2% increase and we met a 1% increase. Again, some of the same pieces are noticed about the schools where the progress is being made and where the proficiency is being attained. We're seeing those instructional strategies, we're seeing the use of the professional learning that is being offered being more evident. As always, I'm going to put a plug in for what's next. We're in the beginning phases of collecting our community feedback to build our next district level school improvement plan. And our first community cafe is at 5 p.m. this Thursday at Clyde C. Miller. We welcome you and hope to see you there. We'll be having a series of these in March and February, March, and April, and then we'll be back to see you all in May with what are the themes that we're learning from our community in terms of what they see as most important as we move forward with our next improvement plan. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Dino?
Yes, Dr. Dino, this question is in regards to a question that was asked last year. How are we reaching back to the students who have graduated from SLPS to determine where they landed? Because you talked about we can measure what the student might have taken in high school to where they are now after they graduated. So I know we talked about they had the ability to keep their email, and so how are we doing that now?
So since we're required to check in with every senior within the year after they graduate, we can reach out to them via email, via phone call. There's lots of ways in which we're tracking, but we make sure and we every year meet our DESE target for reaching out to seniors to make sure that we know what they did afterwards. But there's a variety of avenues by which we do that.
So what office is, excuse me, what office is responsible?
That lives within our College and Career Readiness office.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Two things. Can you, going back to slide 14, how many years' worth of growth was written in this plan?
1 year.
1 year. And how many years' worth of growth are we focusing on this year?
We're focusing on 2.5 years worth of growth this year.
Do you know of any students that have met that goal?
Yes. And we have a percentage of students who are on track to meet it at the halfway point as well.
Perfect, thank you. I also want to be mindful that while this is great information to share, this is also a DESE requirement that this information is shared, presented to the board, and that there is active engagement as well as the community providing feedback. And so that is why Dr. Dino did share that on February 27th, March 27th, and then again in April, we will be asking, March 4th?
April 24th.
April 24th. We will be asking the community to engage and provide us feedback. So I want us to be very clear about that. Okay, thank you.
So just about the community feedback, I've always struggled with our transformation plan in that it's just a lot. And so are we looking to ask the community to narrow this down about what's important?
We are asking the community to help us as it relates to making sure that our children graduate with the portrait of a graduate in mind. And so because every board meeting we have been talking about portrait of a graduate, all of our students have demonstrated attributes as it relates to portrait of a graduate. That is going to be our true north, the portrait of a graduate.
Okay, so, I mean, I guess if we, so for example, we saw tonight, you know, 2 students that were very passionate about early college academy, and I think we've talked about before that there's access to early college academy at all of the high schools, but maybe not as much engagement at all of the high schools or involvement in all the high schools. And there's probably dozens of other examples where high school programs exist. We have a couple of CTE programs that are specific to specific schools on the agenda tonight. So if the feedback is, you know, we need a trade school, we need more culinary schools, we need more college access, are we going to incorporate that in the plan and then make that CSIP into an actual strategic plan so we can sit there and look, well, how do we achieve that access across the city?
So those things would then fall in our college and career readiness. The things that we are seeing now is that there are over 20 goals with the 5 pillars. And sometimes they overlap, or they are in a bucket that we are trying to understand. So for example, you think about excellent schools, and in excellent schools, we're thinking about instruction, we're thinking about curriculum, we're thinking about resources, but excellent schools essentially means infrastructure, the way it is written. And so we're going to share with the community how focusing on a portrait of a graduate is really ultimately what we are here in schools to do. So ask your question a different way.
I mean, I can ask it 50 different ways. So, like Dr. Dino pointed out, sort of the preschool disparity. We have slots in preschool. We always say we basically have universal preschool available for the city of St. Louis. They just don't take advantage of it. So if the community comes back to these community cafes and say, hey, I only want to go to Sticks. I don't want to go, you know, that I want an early childhood center. Would that be something that we're then going to come back to the board and say, hey, we've been doing this preschool model where we have preschools in every elementary school, but we also have a hybrid model where we have these magnet centers that have waiting lists. So, I mean, that's just one example of many. That, you know, I think last time we heard about the gifted elements, which is always kind of a hot button issue because, you know, we've had times where we've gotten feedback about gifted schools and locations. We've never really made a change. So all of that sort of stuff, you know, if the community comes back with that information, I know we have to do the CSIP. We've always viewed it, I think, as a compliance document. So we turn in our homework and we get an A and we move on. But if we're gonna seek community feedback, are we actually gonna do something about it? Other than just change the document and say, this is what they said, let's move on.
Great question. So with that in mind, it is more than a compliance document. It's going to be our true north. And so it's one thing to say, I want my child to participate in preschool, but I'm only going to go to the preschool if it's in this neighborhood. So what we then will be coming to the board asking is, if they need it over in a different neighborhood, what is that going to look like when we begin to reimagine our schools? Because it is important that if you're going to ask for feedback, we can't just take the feedback and say, check, done. We have to make sure that we are able to respond to it. So once we get the feedback, we'll be coming back if it is going to require additional resources, if it's going to feed into our reimagination plan. We're ready to do that.
Thanks, that's the answer I was looking for.
Slide 14.
Yep.
So we have a lot of columns, and one is estimated enrollment, and then there's matches, the number of matches with increase, and then it's the percent. Can you tell me about the matches?
Sure. Students have to have 2 data points in order for us to show what a growth increase would be. And so the number of students who had the fall and the spring matched scores there.
Okay, so is that like a student mobility thing, that they're not matched? Or
We do have a lot of kids moving in and out over the course of the year. And so that's why we really track the actual matched pairs. And I can't speak to how assessment went in 22-23 or 23-24, but I do know that this year, our principals and our assessment office and our network superintendents, and I believe last year as well, spent a lot of time every day during those testing windows making sure all of the students got assessed. Because it's not great data if we're only assessing half the kids in front of us.
And then slide 16. When we're looking at levels of technology integration, are we looking at quality of technology use? And I mean, my position is that we need less screens in school and more face-to-face. So are we looking at also the effectiveness of teachers compared to their technology use?
So this is a specific matrix tool, and if you see certain look-fors, they would land in different categories. Yeah. So what the effectiveness in terms of on-student outcomes, this particular tool is not looking at that. It's looking at their usage.
Okay. Do we have a tool that looks at that?
Not that I'm aware of at this time, no. But we look at student outcomes. As you know, in education, it's really hard to see causality. We're looking for correlation mostly. We're looking at student outcomes. Are our students growing 2.5 years in reading? Are they growing 2.5 years in math? Are they meeting mastery on our various assessments? And so those are some of the outcome data that we're looking at in terms of how then we would match that back to possible technology. I don't know that we've mapped that out precisely.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Dino, so when you're assessing a student, do you use homelessness as one of the tools to guide why students are not making the grade, or they get a grade here or a grade there? Because we have thousands of students, families that are homeless in the metropolitan area. And so I'm thinking with the instability of family life here, it would greatly affect the grades.
And so at the individual school level, when the schools use their data teams and their PLCs, and they're looking at what student growth looks like, they know the students by name, strength, and need, and so they know which students may need different types of supports because they're experiencing homelessness or that type of a thing. We definitely know that that has an impact on students, and what it means is that it's important for us as schools to shore up both our academic and social emotional support so that they can achieve.
Do we know the rate right now of students who are homeless that might?
That in each individual school or across the district?
Across the district.
I don't have that with me right now, but we can get that.
Dr. Dino, I don't know if this is a question for you or Dr. Borsade, but when Vice President Davis was asking about the CSIP and you know, the multiple goals that we have and what we're trying to do, are you finding it now that more of the principals are using and looking at the CSIP? Because I know in the past that it was just a document. Is it starting to be the language, you know, a universal language and a tool that everyone is using and kind of and following in, you know, in step with understanding what we're saying when we're saying pillar 1, pillar 2, and kind of modeling after that?
Well, I would say it has been the expectation that this document has been shared, and so as people are writing their accountability plans, we know that this is our guiding document, and so they're writing goals based on the things that were written in the transformation plan. And I would say our instructional strategies, gradual release, are some things that were listed, and in order for us to continue to grow 2.5, in order for us to hit this 70% goal that has been listed, we have to use these instructional strategies that have been listed in some of the transformational plan.
So I'm asking that because if we're looking to bring the community along in this process, my hope is that we're ensuring that the district is understanding and being brought along at the same time too, to get that same level of feedback and input from them as well.
That's a great question. We are actually going to be doing the same community cafe protocol with our principals in a principal meeting and training them so that they can do the same protocol with their staff at a staff meeting. The same portrait of a graduate descriptor feedback that you all took when you were here last time, principals took, and their staffs took, and students took. So we are definitely making sure that whatever tools we're using to gather feedback, we're getting from all groups. And I just want to share in terms of that portrait of a graduate specific survey that you all did, we now have over 1,500 responses. And so the more data we get, the more likely the themes that emerge are applicable across the system.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, input? Thank you so much.
At this time, we will hear a high-level overview from our operations, Mr. Watson. High-level overview, Mr. Watson. Hi.
Good evening, President Cousins, Vice President Davis, Dr. Boris-Chade, board members listening to the audience. So this is a high-level presentation of our, so what you see on the screen is our facility master plan. We've been working with our partners, Cordigan Clark, just to kind of come up with the first set of information, data, and which will turn into sharing information to our communities around how our facilities, in terms of the condition, in terms of a condition index score, costs, and the list goes on. So, of course, our four-goal areas, our facilities impact student success as a whole. Our strategic values, again, with the condition of our facilities, they are the through line so that teachers can teach and students can learn. And of course, our portrait of a graduate. This, in essence, as you saw right when the presentation started, this is what this is all about, and ensuring that we have adequate facilities to support the instruction and learning. So just very quick in terms of this facility condition assessment and master planning. The facility master planning, it consists of several different data collections. They include an assessment of our facilities. And we currently have this dashboard that was provided by Cordigan Clark called Asset Calc, which is actually an opportunity for us to really dig deep into the data. We could look at what improvements that we need for this year, and we could look it up through probably the next 20 years. So this facility condition assessment, again, it began with the master plan, and this is the first step, in which this provides us information regarding the condition of our facilities. And for the next slides, you will see we have all of the buildings were assessed. There were over 10,600 observations. And some of the assessment, it includes sites and infrastructure, and you'll see what those entail. You'll see that it also involved exterior and the building envelope, which is our roofing, windows, doors, and again, you can see the list there. Even the roofing and the roofing systems, what type of roof systems that we have. We have a variety of different roofs throughout the district. And of course, the interiors. And again, some of the items when it comes to flooring, lighting, and finishes, all of those items are listed. And of course, our systems, both mechanical, our plumbing, and our electrical systems. All of this information has been collected, again, with the help where Cordigan Clark actually provided this service to the district. And again, some of the terms that you will see and that you will hear as we start talking more about the findings and the results from the assessment are as follows. You know, you're listening here, the useful life and effective age, the remaining useful life, and the current replacement value. The facility condition index, it is a formula, but in essence, this allows us to, using a statistical term, to normalize the data. In other words, we'll be able to compare a big high school like a Roosevelt, and compare it to a smaller school in terms of square footage like a Carver. This FCI, Facility Condition Index, it gives us a score that again, we'll be able to measure all of our schools looking at that particular score. And you can see the range in terms of what those scores mean and how it could, how we're able to really determine what the facility, in terms of the condition of those facilities. I did just kind of speak a little bit about this asset calc, and what you see are just some a glimpse of what this program, this dashboard actually does. I mean, again, you can actually go in, click on a few buttons, set your parameters, run a report, and you get outputs. You get pictures. We're able to look at what those immediate needs are, what those needs within the next 5 years, and then again, it forecasts out. Again, some of the pictures that you will see within this particular system, they include the current condition of our roofs, and then you will see what the ratings are. So when you see what an excellent roof looks like and what a roof that is either poor and failing condition. The reserve costs. Again, this is a formula that more or less provides us with the visibility, the data in terms of costs. What it would take for us to look at each of the types of systems that we may have, whether it's safety, any type of environmental accessibility, and put a cost to it. And here you see the data, and of course you see the bottom line of the $1.7 billion of capital needs and given the categories. This is just a snapshot of what we get when we look at the the facility condition index score and the assessment. So it captures all of these data points. So for example, Herzog, you can list the enrollment, you see the capacity of the building, and another data point is utilization. Utilization is the formula more or less with the number of students that are enrolled divided by the number of students that building can hold, or the capacity. A lot of our buildings are under the 50% threshold in terms of utilization, but part of this exercise was for us to gather this information and again look at some of the factors, which include what was some of the critical maintenance or deferred maintenance, as well as the work that was either done or have been completed either through ESSA or Prop S. So all of this information is a part of the dashboard that we receive through this asset calc. And of course, other examples of Yateman. Again, you can see the 49.5 utilization, and again, looking at some of the deferred maintenance or the replacement costs over the span of years. Roosevelt, 28.7 utilization, and again, some of the projects. Sumner, 33.9 utilization. And in essence, that captures, just in short, of what we currently have at our fingertips and utilizing the data so we can make data-informed decisions based on the work, again, by our partners with Corrigan Clark. At this point, open it up for any questions.
And our meeting is when? We start our first meeting?
So we have a meeting March the 14th, in which we will be, we have 6 sessions. Part of the 6 sessions include 2 North, 2 South, 2 Central. These sessions will be just for information, for us to provide information to the public, and then we're going to have other sessions where we'll be listening, 6 sessions where we'll be listening.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Board Member Ben?
Thank you. Mr. Watson, could you explain what the current replacement value is on any of the school slides? Like 19 through 22 or something like that. I just want to make sure I understand.
Of the current replacements?
Yeah. Because there's a couple like FCI scores above that seem to partially add up to it, but I just want to make sure I have that understood.
And I would like to also bring Mr. Steve Raskin, who's a part of, who's the mind behind a lot of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So the values that you're looking at, replacement values are, reserve costs are for a summary of those items that were found to be defective that need to be repaired and or replaced. The replacement value is to take the total square footage of the existing facility and replace that with a dollar value that we have worked with our partners over at Navigate as well as the district to come up with a square footage value. It is not a one-for-one replacement in terms of programmatics or educational or learning or anything like that. We're only talking building envelopes, footprints, and cubic volumes. That's what we're referring to as replacement.
Understood. Thank you. So the like the FCI score numbers like 2024, 2027, those are like what repairs would cost around that time for those years, and then after that, the current replacement value is the square footage facility replacement number.
Correct. I would like to
Okay.
clarify that those reserve costs
Yeah.
are not cumulative.
Okay.
So the numbers that you see in 2024 are for 2024. The numbers you see for 2027, that 1.117 million, those values appear in year 2027. If you do not do the work in 24, you do not do the work in 2027.
I see.
We start adding the numbers at that point.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
I have a question. So when you're talking replacement value, do you consider, would it be the same materials? Because I know there are different materials used in construction. So are you using the highest value material or the most economical or most energy efficient material? Because I know materials make a difference when you're estimating anything each year.
Absolutely. And for the purposes of this exercise, we're using just a general square footage number. We have not programmed spaces. We have not identified sites, structural systems, anything of that nature. What we're looking at are best practices. These are the numbers that our partners at Bureau Veritas look at. These are the numbers that we as Cordigan Clark Ittner have used for replacement school costs over the last 5 to 10 years. We've also worked with our partners over at Navigate to come up with what are approximate, realistic, total project costs for the replacement of those facilities. They are not specific to a particular site or a particular school, but rather we took the last 10 schools that we looked at, we escalated those accordingly. We did a similar exercise with our partners at Navigate. That's where those numbers have been arrived.
So we're just talking about the envelope, like the bricks, just the outside of a
No,
building.
these are total building replacements, as I indicated. The square footages, I think those numbers might be a little bit misleading because, again, if you've got a building of 300,000 square feet and your utilization is only 50%, is that building going to be replaced square foot for square foot? I don't know. We haven't really had that conversation. But for the purposes of the exercise to identify the replacement value, we've used that dollar per square foot just to identify that number. And it's important to have that number because that replacement cost helps us to identify the FCI or the actual facility condition index score. So the reserve costs, the replacement costs, that calculation helps to identify the overall facility condition index score. Does that help answer your question?
Well, you're using a lot of construction terminology,
Oh,
so
I'm-
you kind of lost me a little bit with the, but, okay. All right.
Is there anything I can add?
Okay.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Could new guy summary? Could you give me a quick summary of our partner Navigate?
So Navigate is our construction management firm. They've been through the day one in terms of managing, providing oversight for all of our prop-based projects.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm only familiar with a different Navigate. So that's much more more palatable to me. Thank you. That's good. That's what I was hoping. Thank you.
Is this dashboard a tool for within the district to use? Or is it a public place? Because I can't find it if it's public.
So it's mainly for the operations department, for facilities department, and again, this is us identifying our future capital needs throughout the district. So it's not for public consumption, but some of the data we could release and provide for public view and for public consumption.
Yeah, maybe when we have our sessions. All right, thank you.
I think I got one more.
Another high level.
Okay, so this next update again is in regards to transportation. Of course, transportation touches our 4 goals, the through line for our strategic values, and of course, the portrait of a graduate. So just real quickly in terms of our partner with Zoom, one of the first and one of the major priorities for Dr. Borshade as well as the department is transportation. I definitely would like to thank all of the parents that attended the PAC meeting last Thursday. We had over 100 parents involved and just anticipating some of the information that was provided by Zoom. In addition, I would also like to thank those parents that have registered for next year. To date, I think we have over 7,500
Yes.
family students that have registered, so I definitely wanted to give a shout out to those parents. I did have in front of me, as we started sending out our thank yous, we did have about 118 of undeliverable emails, which means that we still have some challenges around our email addresses, but they were one-offs, meaning if they might have added an S to the name, or and we only had 3 return letters. So out of the over 7,000 letters that were sent out, we only had 3 return for incorrect address. And again, over the 7,500 emails that were sent out, 118 came back undelivered. So again, encouraging families to opt in, to register for next year, and also make sure your information is correct, as this will help us get ourselves ready for the start of next year and optimize our routing for a successful start of the next 25-26 school year. And just, I won't necessarily go through a lot of the slides, but we did get the opportunity to meet with the CEO of Zoom. The picture is shown here, Miss Rita from Zoom, the CEO. She got the opportunity to not only get a chance to view St. Louis, but meet with Dr. Borshade on Monday morning. Good story in terms of an opportunity for us to hear her why, and her why was real simple. Being a parent, wanted to a parent at work, wanted to make sure that her children got to school and got to school on time and got to school consistently. So this is how Zoom was founded under their premise. And with that, it has expanded, and now we're bringing them in. Our goal and the focus is modernizing student transportation. As we see in our first step in that is through the intent. I mean, we're encouraging, again, families to get online because this is the new wave, that using the app, parent apps, mobile apps, devices, so that you can get real-time GPS and real-time tracking for your students, for your children. Next steps for us, and again, some of the information, we checked the references. We know that there have been some hiccups when it comes to launching. We were made aware of one school district in Howard County, I think it was in Maryland, and even with Kansas City in terms of their launching and startups. So our ask has been, as we've had discussions with Zoom, is what are those lessons learned so that we could apply them to St. Louis Public Schools, so that we don't run into some of the same issues, challenges that were at some of the other locations. And this is all a part of our daily, our weekly meeting, our weekly cadence. When we meet, of course, we talk about information in terms of recruiting and staffing, our onboarding and training, our fleet and equipment as to when buses will get here. And so we're going to keep that metrics and, again, provide the transparency not only to the board, Dr. Borshade, but to the community as well. We're also working on a customer service plan, making sure that, as we heard and we listened to families, that you get someone that's going to answer and resolve your issues or your concern. Providing this implementation schedule that it'll be visible, again, for anyone online. You'll be able to see where we are as we get ourselves ready for the journey on August 2025. One of the exciting things that we're working with Zoom, and again, we're still in the phases of negotiating the contract, but with the RFID, this is an opportunity that every student will have new photos, and they'll have their SLPS or their school lanyard, where again, when they get onto that bus, they get that opportunity to get that first contact with that driver by name, saying, welcome, square, and we get ready to take you on a ride. New buses with air conditioning, and the list goes on in terms of not only the technology, but just with the new vehicles that we have prepared. So again, just some of the high level in terms of Zoom, and making sure that at the end of the day we get reliable, consistent transportation. Some of the feedback, again, from the PAC meeting and the feedback that we're receiving from even our school leaders is a different level of excitement. And so we're really anxious on bringing into Zoom, as well as talking with not necessarily talking with the drivers, but just from the feedback that we have heard from those that work with Zoom and other accounts and other districts, the enthusiasm that they have, because there is a culture change, a culture shift when it comes to them being wanted, having benefits, and really the list goes on. I think I touched on a lot of the information. Some of it was already stated before in terms of the GPS and the technology. So what you see as I'm kind of perusing through are just some of the apps and the real-time tracking that they receive. A lot of the monitors that you will even see here at 801, they'll be at our transportation depot, at schools, where you'll be able to see where buses are, and we track in the green. Our motto is green. And again, just some of the information around Zoom and some of the accounts that they service and provide. And again, we followed up with a lot, the majority of them, and we've had some outstanding reviews when it comes to their performance, with the over 95, 97% in a lot of areas, on-time performance, as well as a rating of over 4.5, 4.8. And personally, the CEO said that any rating under a 3-star, you would get a call or some contact, likely from the CEO or the president, founder of Zoom. So those are some of the great stories that we've heard. And again, as our implementation schedule will begin and the journey begin on once the board approved it at the last board meeting. Again, we're working through some of the negotiations with the contract, but we're looking to take off in the right direction. So at this point, I'll open it up for any questions.
That's all right. Just one quick question. You said there were some issues with one of the launches. Could you talk a little bit more about that and what we're trying to figure out to make sure that doesn't happen here?
So
Sure, some of the issues were routing and the lack of timely routing. And so the lesson learned for us is making sure that we get our routing done early. That is why we are asking all of our parents to opt in so that we can begin the routing. So that was one of the major things, because without the routing, then the on-time performance, the stops and the locations are all impacted.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I was worried. I know at the last board meeting, folks asked about like driver shortage, but it sounds like that's not one of the main concerns. So that's great to
So
hear.
they're going to have a career fair, I want to say March 3rd through the 6th, and they are constantly having career fairs, identifying drivers so that they will be ready.
Great, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chief Watson.
Dr. Hubbard? Dr. Hubbard is going to be bringing an update on our finances as it relates to any outstanding audit findings.
Good evening to President Cousins, to the members of the board, to our superintendent, Dr. Boris Sade, as well as everyone assembled. Tonight will be a very brief presentation on the finance-related observations and corrective actions from the 2024 management assessment that we received in December. And of course, okay, good, I know how to do this. As always, we are committed to our SOPS strategic values. We are likewise committed to our student success goals, as well as our portrait of a graduate. So, our agenda is you're going to receive a summary of the management observations, the audit recommendations, corrective actions that we have instituted or in the process of instituting, and then also I'll tell you a little bit about purchasing credit card training that we have already implemented thanks to our executive director of finance. So, summary of the finance-related observations, and this is again from the assessment that we were given in December. The district lacks an internal auditor. Going to skip that because we know that I'm here now. The district provided a limited level of oversight related to the superintendent's position. The Board of Education and the district's policies that exist were created or revised over 10 years ago. The superintendent's office exceeded the credit card's monthly limits during the 2023 to 2024 school year. The district violated policies pertaining to acceptable use of the purchasing card, which is our U.S. Bank Visa credit card, during that school year as well. The SOPS board administrative regulations, as well as the board travel policies, contradict each other. The administrative regs stated that travel expenses were covered. They covered employee travel, and the board travel policy extended that coverage not only to district employees, but also to members of the board. So inconsistent policies there. No guidelines or policies existed to specify how long our detailed receipts or supporting documentation for credit card purchases should be retained. And the practices varied widely from department to department. And there was no requirement for card holders or card users to complete a cardholder agreement, or training during the 2023-24 school year or prior. So what were the recommendations that they gave us? The district should reestablish the internal audit function. Good, we did that. The district should conduct a full review of hiring and salaries, credit cards and expenses, procurement processes. The board should assess the oversight practices and related policies and procedures regarding activities of the superintendent's office. The district should evaluate and update its board policies as necessary. The district should reconcile the board policies to its various district policies, and the district should assess, update, and/or develop policies and procedures that will govern the approval of pay increases, interim roles, relocation expenses, and retroactive pay, to include requirements to obtain approval for key decisions in writing prior to the changes. The district should assess the policy regarding the monthly card limits to determine whether a hard limit or a review process for amounts over the credit limit should be implemented and whether the limits should be adjusted. The district should also reconcile the policies and procedures to resolve any conflicts to ensure consistency. We should update, implement, and communicate those policy changes regarding supporting documentation retention to all of our employees, and the district should ensure that all employees issued a credit card, or any departments that are issued a credit card, that the users will complete a cardholder agreement and the prescribed training. So what have we done as a district to meet those recommendations? What are we in the process of doing? Skipping number one, we have revised the finance policies, and those were approved by the board on at the February 11th board meeting, and they are now in our diligence platform in the document library if anyone wants to see those. And we are going to different policies. I believe HR policies will be next. The Board of Education Audit Committee roles and responsibilities or to be reviewed by the board at this work session. I'll let them comment on whether that's happening.
Sorry, we'll do it the next one.
Okay, I figured that. For superintendent oversight, the board adopted a revised bylaw outlining requirements for inclusion in meeting agendas and developed guidelines for the use of a consent agenda during the meeting, our general board meeting on February 11th. And for awareness items, the agenda will now include standing items for approval, such as superintendent travel, credit card use, procurement, and contracts that don't ordinarily require board approval, and that would be for awareness. The board and the superintendent have undergone annual training on the district's credit card procedures, right? We did that? Yes. The internal auditor will develop a process to regularly audit the district's purchasing, credit card, and travel procedures to ensure compliance with procedures, and that is in progress. Currently, I'm working on the credit card purchases for the first half of the school year, this school year. In 2023, the board entered an agreement with MSBA, which is the Missouri School Board Association, to assist with updating our existing policies and to ensure compliance with statutory and regulatory requirements. And like I said, finance policies have been returned, and we will be next moving on to HR policies. The updated finance policy to include new purchasing requirements and procedures were implemented in February after the district employees were trained, and I'm speaking of our central office employees. All district employees will be trained eventually. The board implemented the review of credit card statements for awareness, and the superintendent has developed an explanation form that is going to be used to address any questions regarding card charges that may be implemented or transacted. Our new travel procedures were shared during the purchasing card training, which was completed Friday, February 24th, the 14th rather, February 24th and February 25th today. All right, and then of course our internal auditor is tasked with periodically testing activity to ensure compliance with our new policies and procedures. As I mentioned earlier, we've done a central office training for using what we call a P card, or purchasing cards. It's essentially our credit card. And the executive director of finance developed and delivered that training. Excellent job. She did an excellent job at that. I've already talked about the dates. The training is required effective February 11th. The training is required for any employees who request to use the district credit card. Registration is happening through Frontline, and the training will be available through Vector for completion by all non-central office employees who need to complete it. So that's the next phase of that training.
Thank you.
That's my presentation.
Dr. Hubbard, I would like to go back to slide 14, I believe it is.
Sure.
And in your last bullet, it says the Board of Education and Superintendent have undergone annual training on the district's purchasing and card procedures. It should now say members of the Board of Education. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Saying the Board of Education
They're not,
indicates
they're,
that all of them, but we should say members of the
Okay.
Board of Education.
okay.
Okay.
I will make that adjustment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And their mics are off for a reason. And no other questions, I will sit down.
I have a question or two, if I can. And this is all kind of not in order, but I think we mentioned this a bit at the governance committee meeting, and I just kind of mentioned this the whole thing. The Board of Education's budget, so not the Board of Education's budget, but the Board of Education's budget just for us, which I think would include professional development, and I think there were office supplies, which were, to use for board meetings and stuff like that. I don't think we've ever seen it as board members, and so I don't know if that's something that we could possibly discuss, and then also make clear, you know, from, oh, okay.
There it is.
Okay. So yeah, so I mean, I think out-of-town travel and conference, $28,500. I think, I can't. That's a lot of postage too. Like
Yeah, but
$25,000 in postage.
is there any way we can all get
Sorry.
a copy
Yeah.
of that?
Yeah. I'm just like, maybe at some point we can kind of have a discussion about this
Right,
and see
And
like,
go over that.
you know, because we sort of are being held publicly responsible for stuff that we didn't even know. I mean, maybe it's not supposed to be in our budget. But I also think, in particularly when, you know, we have the policy where we approve our travel as a board for conferences, but I don't think we've ever had a budget attached to that. And so I think if we maybe at some point knew how much our travel budget was, and then we had sort of the list of things, because they're the same kind of 3 or 4 conferences every year, we could plan that out, who's gonna go when and where, if it's even necessary.
So are you
I'm glad you
suggesting that
mentioned that.
are you suggesting that there is a budget committee?
Well, there is a budget committee, on the books.
On the books.
We can talk about that. I was gonna bring that up at the governance committee, because we're gonna have to have a list of our bylaws of all of our standing committees. But that's for the whole district. I'm just asking specifically about things that are tied to the Board of Education budget, this document. And particularly for our travel, because again, you know, I don't think we've ever had the big discussion, okay, you know, if 4 people are going to Harvard, that's gonna blow the budget out, which I think it did. But I don't think we knew that until after it happened.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because as of right now, it would blow the budget out. I know, because we actually, in the policies that you all approved on February 11th, there is a maximum for airline tickets as far as the maximum that the cost should be. So that means proactively buying tickets early enough to not spend $2,000 on an airline ticket. Not that anyone has done that. I was just using that as an example. So that's going to be very important going forward, to make sure that you're familiar with what, of course, with the policies that you approved, but then also knowing what you have left to spend. So let Dr. Borsha.
And so when we did our training, one of the things that we mentioned was you have to do the travel 45 days. Anyone who is traveling has to do their travel 45 days or get approval 45 days in advance, which would then be in alignment with the cost that is allowed for airline tickets. Because if you get the cost 2 months in advance, what has happened is then people wait 2 days or 3 days before the travel, and then they book the ticket. But the cost of it 2 months prior is a different cost than it is to get it 2 to 3 days in advance. So that it is so important that we are following what we, the training that we have been provided.
And just again, specifically for Board of Education travel, I think that'd be important for us to just plan it out, because I don't think I've ever had a situation where I've even known that the conference was 45 days. And, you know, I think the ones where I've gone out of state, I was asked to speak. And so I don't even know if I could have coordinated my schedule that far in advance. So, you know, I don't know if that should be an exception, or if we should just say, if this is the policy, there's gonna be circumstances where we have to say no. At least that would be my circumstance for when I traveled, and I think other probably have had those same situations. My other 2 questions, and again, maybe these aren't to be answered tonight, but it seems like the majority of travel on the credit cards are in 2 buckets: professional development, and then also school-based. And so I'll start with the school-based, so coaches and, you know, I guess other sort of experiential field trips. How is it decided which teams, which clubs, which schools have a travel budget? And then also, is food always included for those students? And is that part of a procedure?
So correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm looking at our Director of Finance. All of our schools have a budget, and their budget guides whether or not there's an opportunity for them to travel. So that's the first thing. If students are traveling, then yes, that would be a situation where the coach could come and obtain a card, take the training, sign the purchasing agreement. They could then use that card when they're traveling with the students to cover the lodging, to cover the meals, to cover the learning-related activities. Now, if it's an employee that's not traveling with students, they will not be using the purchasing card anymore.
But piggybacking on his question, the school has a budget to travel, but what about the sports? Because is that a different budget that's coming out of?
Okay, I'm sorry. Oftentimes, it is two forms of travel that we see quite often. It's from the athletic department as well as CTE. So it depends on the type of funding. So CTE sometimes is covered by certain grants, and sometimes it's covered by GOB funding, but it is separate budget. Now, those little travels that they have at the school, they could use their GOB budget and budget accordingly because they're given a dollar amount based on the student enrollment, and it's up to the principals to allocate how they want to use that budget. So we allow them to transfer within that budget as long as they don't exceed their budget.
So I guess, does this lead to problems at schools? So say, you know, the track team is the principal's favorite, and so the track team gets to go everywhere and the volleyball team doesn't? I mean, how is this sort of sorted out? I mean, it seems we throw the word equity around all the time. How is equity ensured amongst all of our schools and all of our students? Because if I join the wrong club, what if I don't get those same experiences as if I join the right club?
I am brand new.
I know.
So
I said I don't know
cannot
if this is a
speak
question
historically
necessarily that can be answered. It's probably just more of a concern that I have, especially as I see who's traveling where, and you're taking 7 kids here, 9 kids here, and I just know, you know, being in the schools, that there's more times than not where the kids and the coaches, they're saying, well, we can't do that. Or I go to other events, you know, and I'll use middle school track as the example. You go to a middle school track meet out in the county, there's only one St. Louis Public Schools track team that participates. That's generally McKinley, because those parents drive themselves. So they don't even have a bus to take all the other middle schools to compete. But every other St. Louis County, St. Charles County School District is at that track meet for middle school. And that's always struck me as a major equity issue. And then if you look at even the CTE programs, you know, some schools are going on these very elaborate, you know, productive. I'm not criticizing that it's a great experience, but then other schools you see nothing. So how do you get access to that? I think that's a really problem.
So, Vice President Davis, those are really good questions. I am certain that principals don't have favorite teams. They are doing this in an equitable way. One of the things that I would like for us to talk about as a cabinet and come back is making sure that at the beginning of the year, all of the teams in that school have been identified, and if there is going to be activities or events that will require funding or a budget allocation, that is done at the beginning of the year so that all of the teams will know how much they have allocated to them. And it would be based on the number of events or the number of students. But that's something that we will talk about as a cabinet and bring it back.
Thank you. And my other question is about the professional development travel. And I know we talked before about how there's a professional development plan to be presented to the board that's forthcoming. Again, I think it's also one of those compliance documents that we don't always comply with in terms of board approval for a professional development plan. But seeing the credit cards for different professional development travel, I'm just wondering if this is a shift in how we do professional development. I do recall it was probably 2 years ago, we had a presentation about the professional development spending, and it was about $1 million where we were bringing in speakers to professional development, and there was, and did something shift that we stopped bringing in speakers and instead are sending people to conferences, or has this always sort of been the practice?
I would say more recently, it has been a shift, and we're going to continue shifting because all of the professional development that we are participating in should be in alignment with our student goals, with our district goals. And if there's something that someone wants to participate in outside of that, certainly they can go ahead and participate. But all of the professional development that we will pay for needs to be aligned with our district goals. And so there will be a presentation for the 25-26 school year. We're working through those. We're working through that now.
And I guess my question, or maybe it's a request, when we get that professional development plan, which will talk about who's getting professional development and I guess in what categories or something like that, where there'll be a budget attached in terms of this is the travel budget for conference fees and travel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. At this time, we will hear from Dr. Berry regarding our GeoVision.
All right, good evening. Our protocol being already established. I got the message, brevity is key, so we will keep going. We are presenting tonight GeoVision. We will talk about GeoVision is a J-1 visa sponsoring agency. Throughout this presentation, we'll talk about why we are shifting towards GeoVision. And some of you who've been on the board for quite a while may remember we used GeoVision once before, back in 2019. So it's not totally new, but this process is new this year. Of course, our strategic values. We are currently hosting 30 teachers for our J-1 visas program, and recruiting certified teachers from abroad helps with many of these values. Most of them, the first 5, we're looking at highly effective educators, leaders, joyful and engaged students, authentic partnerships, personalized, innovative pathways, and of course, we look at multiple sources of data. In addition to this, we know that our culture experiences can enrich our students, and we're definitely looking at the culture and climate piece. With our portrait of a graduate, we're definitely building up on being culturally aware, a collaborator, and we are hoping that this reaches to be change agents for our entire district. That brings us to GeoVision. Last year, you may recall that we brought before you another agency with board approval. We were able to get 30 international teachers from that. However, we have learned many lessons throughout the process. We are ready to become our own global recruiters and align our initiatives with one single visa sponsor for the future of our J-1 visas. GeoVision has over 30 years of experience. They have long relationships with teachers, specifically recruiting teachers from Central and South America. There are many benefits with our Teach USA programs, but specifically, as mentioned, we are committed to making sure that we are tenants of our portrait of a graduate. And so with this, we're making sure that we are aligning our cultural program to our teachings and everything that we are doing with our students, and making sure that we are developed critically thinking skills and cultural awareness, as well as GeoVision has been around and able to assist us in getting teachers into our high needs schools, which is critical and extremely important. So that brings us to our host schools. The participants must be the teacher of record. We are not using any of our adult programs nor our pre-kindergarten positions. All of our teachers must be full-time and non-tenured. Our current teacher exchange program, we are working with over a dozen SLPS buildings, but GeoVision is going to help us while they're working with the U.S. Department of State to make sure that our high-need schools are being filled. And I say that because we were having that issue with some of our previous sponsors, so this is a huge, huge improvement, and we are extremely excited that we can actually focus on our high-need schools for our staff to be in these schools. So this brings us to the nuts and bolts of GeoVision. So the key difference here is we're going to be paying $1,000 to GeoVision. I know before we didn't pay a dime to the recruiting agency. However, all J1 visa holders must pay a cost of the visa. And SLPS is dedicated to work with the partnership to offset that cost. With our previous recruiting agency, they charge an additional $200 for recruiting costs if the teachers did not pay up front the $4,000. We didn't know, but we know better now. So that means a total of about $6,000 that the teachers were paying. Free to SLPS, teachers were paying. Now we were paying $4,000 as a recruiting tool to our international teachers because we thought that was offsetting the $4,000 cost. We now know it did not. So with this, if we pay $1,000 to GeoVision, we are still able to pay the additional $3,000 to the international teacher, which will offset the cost because the program cost is about $27.50 if the teacher pays prior to coming here. If they cannot, they allow them to break it up into installments, but the first installment does not start until 60 days until after they arrive, which is critical because it allows them to get funds. And we will give them the $3,000 60 days after they've worked, so they'll have the money to be able to pay the additional $3,000. So while it is $1,000 that we're now paying to an actual agency, it is still costing the district the same amount of money because we were giving $4,000 to the teacher thinking it's offsetting the cost. But we're going to pay $1,000 to the company and then $3,000 to the teacher. Okay? In addition to that, there is also a monthly fee that they're going to pay. But this is really critical because that monthly fee includes 24/7 support in addition to repatriation support for the teachers in the event they have to go back to their home country. In addition to, it pays for medical evacuation insurance and program compliance support. Each teacher will have to renew on their own a fee of $1,500 each year, but no matter what visa company you use, that's every visa company requires our international teachers to do that. With GeoVision, as we know, many of us have families, it also paves the way for them to bring their families with them. There is a cost to the applicant. It'll be $750 for each applicant that they bring, but they will go through all of the same standards that they must to come over. GeoVision helps them and assists with them. They can bring them on what's called a J2 visa. Again, we're not sponsoring that, but GeoVision assists in helping them support to bring their families here and to get them stateside quickly. These are many of the services that GeoVision provides, but again, I just want to highlight that health coverage insurance. For 90 days, they have health coverage insurance because, again, their coverage will not kick in here with SLPS until after those 30 days or the start of that very first next month. So that's very critical. GeoVision also helps them with background screening. They will do that from their home country. In addition to a verification of their teaching credentials, a test for English proficiency, and also when they get here, they still have to go through all of SLPS's background checks, and we have a team member that will assist them with getting their Social Security card. So the eligibility requirements, it's a 3-year program. So we know up front we'll get 3 years, and they're eligible for 2 one-year additional terms. So up to 5 years they can remain with us. GeoVision will help them with applying for that each year, and on the last 2 years they must stay in that school. And that concludes our GeoVision. Any questions? Of course.
Go back to one of the slides you were showing, the services. So
ma'am.
is that what comes with the fee?
With the additional $59 fee, yes, ma'am.
So that's part of the $59 fee, or is that part of the $4,000 fee?
So the J1 visa itself has a cost, and I'm also going to call Beth Davy. Let me know if I'm saying something wrong. Come on up. The J1 visa itself with the state has a cost. So that's separate and apart from the additional $59. And then, yes, there are some additional fees. It's $2,700, but the $1,500 is strictly for the state, and all of the rest, you're right, will go towards the services.
Okay, so that part of the fee is basically ensuring and helping them through navigate the paperwork process of what they will have to do.
Yes, ma'am, and it's lengthy.
Okay, so after the year, is it that they have to renew?
Yes, each year.
Documentations each year? Okay, okay.
Okay. My question is, when they come, are they going into a specific area in our schools? Just say foreign languages, Spanish, and I know we have several foreign languages that we teach throughout the district.
Yes, ma'am. So I know specifically last week we focused on our middle school and high school sciences and math. Beth Davy, do we have any foreign languages?
So we do not have any teachers typically that come in on J1 cultural exchange visas on foreign language certificates. Primarily that when they're coming in, we want to make sure that we're focusing with the student success goals. Our foreign language certificates, I think last year with a different recruiting agency, we maybe had one person who in their home country was certified to teach French. But since it had not been approved by the board, we did not invite that person to interview. If that's something that the board would like us to include, is that world language certification, we can definitely ask the recruiting agency if it is approved.
I think I'm asking because in prior years, I remember it's been a minute, that a foreign language was required to graduate from high school. So, and at one point in time, we didn't have enough teachers for the foreign language. So are we meeting that requirement right now?
So Board Member Jones, I'm glad you brought that up because it would need to be in alignment with our course catalog.
Correct. And when Ms. Davy is talking about what was board approved, we brought the request to do middle school, high school, and special education. So we didn't ask for the request to do foreign language at that time for our, in elementary, thank you, for our cultural exchange program.
All right, thank you.
And so the question becomes, in terms of graduation requirements, is it a 4-year foreign language that our students have to have, 2 years foreign language that our students have to have?
I'm going to defer to Dr. Dino. Are you aware of the actual requirement that our students may need? Okay, so we can certainly get that to you.
I just want to say thank you for getting a better partner.
Absolutely. The recruitment team did a phenomenal job. Beth and her team, they met them at the airport when we realized there were things that we were not privy to. We were making food baskets. Our teachers are amazing. They want to be here. We want them here. So we already have a plan of how we're going to support our new teachers coming in.
Any other questions? Oh. Board Member Canover.
Thank you. Just a quick question. So I'm a student and instructor over at SLU. We've had some troubles with some of these things in terms of student visas. So just wanted to make sure that we don't know of any partnerships that GeoVision has with any other local education entities that may put us in some financial trouble as SLU is facing with their student visas. So.
No, I have not seen any of that. Do you? Please, yep.
So the primary difference on the, and I am still learning as well, on visa law and everything with the Department of State, the J1 visa is a cultural exchange visa, so it's not necessarily a transition from the student visa. Our recommenders from this program primarily, Houston and Dallas, have had great success using GeoVisions, as well as one of our own network superintendents worked with them in a previous district. We did go out and meet with several different visa sponsors. This was the company that was the most transparent, and we want to be as dedicated as we possibly can be to make sure that our teachers have a positive experience in their enculturation into SLPS.
Great, thank you.
I just wanted to double check. We have no requirement for a world language to graduate from high school. We recommend students who want to go to a four-year university take two, but we don't have any requirement in our current graduation requirements. Colleges do, but there's a difference between what we require as a high school graduation and what each college sets its own requirements as far as admission. We do recommend it, but we don't require it. And most four-year institutions do require 2 years of a world language in order to be accepted.
Do we offer foreign language in all our high schools?
We-
Sorry.
That is something we will work
We
on,
can-
Vice President
We can get you a
Davis.
list of which languages are offered at which schools.
I won't even talk about middle school.
Any other questions or discussions? Thank you so much, ladies. Now we're going to move into the consent agenda. Is there any questions regarding the consent agenda?
I had a quick question about 8.7 Arches grant funding. I saw Aaron over there, waiting for my question. Just real quick, I'm glad to see this funding be here and I guess return. I was just unclear, is this going to be funding the third parties that work with Arches, or is this going directly to us? I wasn't clear on the documents.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different this year. Normally, Arches funds a third party that goes into Warner and Booter. This year, they are funding us directly, so it will be helping to offset the cost of the after-school program at Warner and Booter for spring semester.
Great, and do you know, is this mental health board money that's flowing through Arches?
This is from the state. I'm not
Okay.
sure exactly where, but I know it's state funded.
Okay, so and I guess so previously, the mental health board, which is funded by a property tax addition, has the Children's Services Fund, and its original promise was that it was going to have the After School for All partnership, and I guess that has not returned.
So we've actually been in talks with their executive director, and we're working on a plan for 2 middle schools for next academic year.
Great,
Yes.
thanks.
Of course.
Any other questions regarding the consent agenda? Seeing none, we're going to go over to items for discussion.
Thank you, Board President Cousins. So on the agenda, we have the St. Louis Public School Foundation MOU. I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that we did not have a signed or executed MOU last year, and just looking to make sure that we move forward with the MOU for the St. Louis Public School Foundation. We do have Mr. Halliday Douglas, who is joining us via Zoom, if there are any questions. I do want to also note that in the bar where it says there is no funding, it should be clarified that there is a $40,000 funding because there is a staff member. I want to go back to page in the MOU. It is on it's F on page 10, the administration of school funds and scholarship and award funds. The district will provide $40,000 annually towards the compensation of an individual whose responsibility will include responding to requests from the schools, alumni, check requests, and things of that nature. So that would be a $40,000 fee that we pay to the St. Louis Public School Foundation. Ms. Terry, we do already make that happen, correct? That is a allocated.
I would have to confirm. I would have to check and confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
I would like to understand if this memorandum of understanding, we're paying them $40,000 and they are actually located here in our building as well?
That is correct. And from the way I'm understanding our MOA, there are lots of different things that is sponsored by or funded by the St. Louis Foundation, which is well over $40,000. So.
Okay. I don't know, when I see a description of what they do, it always seems as if they're telling us what they are going to do with their program, with the funds that are supposedly allocated for the district. And so I get a little confused as to what the true understanding is when they are giving funds that are intended for the district. They already have goals that they have set that they want to put in place first. And then we have to pay them $40,000, and they are located in this building. They don't have to pay to be anywhere.
So when I look at the MOU, I'm looking at section D and determination of funding priorities. And the determination of funding priorities, I think we set with the foundation. We can change them. And so what ends up happening is as we set these funding priorities, when there is an opportunity for a funder to donate money to St. Louis Public Schools, it would be in alignment with these things here. For example, as it relates to our home libraries, we made a promise to have home libraries, and we made that promise without checking with finance to see how much that was going to cost. And the foundation has decided that they would move forward with funding home libraries for at least 5 to 6 schools. And what we're going to do to make sure that we honor our promise in terms of having home libraries is we're going to have digital libraries where families can have access to online books, whether they're in the car, at home, on a plane. But the foundation stepped up and said, okay, well, we will do at least 5 schools where we would donate books, or we would make sure that the funders are available to donate the books. But I appreciate your questions.
Okay, well, the last question would be, because I've always been concerned over the years, when I ask questions about the foundation, they have the opportunity to not identify whom their funders are when they are allocating funds to certain schools for certain programs. Like when we asked, okay, so if there's a sports program and they want to travel, that kind of thing. But with the foundation, they can receive funds and not tell anybody who is the funder and allocate it toward a certain school. And that's not equitable. That's not equal. So I'm wondering, when we agree to things, how can we make that equitable? And will we identify, or will we ask them to identify who the funders are?
So I think we haven't taken advantage of the full MOU. One of the things that I read is that there is, we should be getting quarterly reports, or if we want to, we can ask monthly, where are the funds coming from, who are the funders? And I'm not sure that we have taken advantage of that.
Okay, well, thank you. I hope that we will, because that's been happening for years and years since this organization has been in play. And I've asked over and over, who are the funders and why is it that certain schools get more funds than other schools from the foundation? So I think if the funders want to be fair, the people who send the money to the foundation, then we need to know who they are so that we can ask those questions, because we want to make sure everybody gets an equal chance.
I agree, and it makes me wonder if there are restricted funds coming in. And with those restricted funds, if I am a funder, I can say I only want my money to go to Laclede Elementary School. Period. The end. I'm an alumni, and I don't want to give it to the school. I'm going to give it to the foundation, and I only want my money to go to a particular location.
Well, that kind of puts us up in a handicapped position as well, because if that's going to be the case and just one particular school's getting all the funds for years and years, then maybe do we have to make sure that we are aiming more money at the schools that are not receiving those funds, like the ones that the foundation has a preference for?
Okay, great question.
I wonder, Dr. Borchday, I'm just going through my emails. I see back in February of 2023, we were having discussions about renewing and making some changes to this memorandum, this agency agreement, and we kind of hit a brick wall with the foundation leadership, and so it's never happened. So I wonder, previously they used to come annually and present on their on what they've been working on. I wonder if before we go forward with this, that we invite them to come and we have this discussion again.
I agree. Is Mr. Douglas available via Zoom?
Yeah.
Is there anything that we want to ask, or do we want to wait and postpone it, Vice President Davis?
Well, I mean, I think in the past, since I've been on the board, they would regularly come, and not those quarterly presentations, but at least an annual presentation, especially after their board has reset their goals for the year, and they would come and we would have that discussion. I don't know when the last time that they did do that presentation, but it does seem like a while.
I have a question for Mr. Douglas. When I'm looking at this MOU and I'm hearing the discussions, hearing what Secretary Jones is saying and hearing what Vice President Davis is saying, I continue to struggle with how does the foundation align and goals align with St. Louis Public School goals? And hearing the things that we're hearing, can you kind of give me guidance to that? You're breaking up, Mr. Douglas.
Sure what's going on.
Mr. Douglas, you are breaking up bad. Is it possible for you to use that same number to call in and stay on the Zoom as well?
Can you hear me?
No. Not better.
Yes.
It's
I will
still-
call in.
Okay.
I need a number though.
It's that same link.
Mr. Ben, while he's working on the technology component, Board Member Ben, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question, and I think this relates to Board Secretary Jones's question. Is the 40,000 that's been referred to the 40,000 that's right there at the top of section F on page 10, or is it the 40,000 that is in section F number 5?
Section F, page 10.
So there's a thing at the top that says it's for an individual, so it doesn't seem like it's a specific cost that we pay to the foundation, like just generally it's for somebody's staff role.
Yeah.
But then there's another $40,000 number mentioned in point 5 that seems potentially related, but potentially unrelated to that.
So just my understanding.
Yeah.
So while we haven't really had this agency agreement in effect for many years. If you go back through board docs, we do get an invoice every year for the $40,000, which is for the accounting management of those individual funds. So we still have been paying that, but the overall agreement has not been in effect.
Okay, so that we're unsure if it goes to an individual or it's just generally for the accounting of those funds.
I'm not sure how they
Yeah.
they still do it. That'd be a question for Mr. Halliday. I think it used to be that was for a part-time person. I don't know if they still have a part-time person or if they outsource that to some kind of accounting firm.
Great.
But then I think also the question goes to, we as a board don't get like an account of what's going on with the funds. We don't get like financial statements, and that will probably help in understanding what schools are getting what schools aren't getting what.
Looking back through my emails when we've asked those questions before, we were told that those reports go to finance, according to the agreement, but they've not been provided to the board. That's what we were told by the foundation staff. And I can forward you guys these emails. It's been a couple years.
I have not received any of those reports since I've been in place, but I can confirm if they were sent previously.
Okay. And then in addition, in terms of our annual audit from Reuben Brown, they are considered a component unit for accounting purposes, and so their annual audit should be included in our audit. There have been years where they did not provide that information, so they just used the previous years.
So, is the foundation the only organization, not-for-profit, that we're utilizing when a corporation or an individual from the public wants to donate funds to the school district? Or are they the only ones?
I believe at this point, they are the only ones, other than the fact that a donor could donate to the district and say this is restricted, or they can donate to the school, and then the donor would need to make sure that, that donation would have to be approved by the board.
So how do people find out how they can go about the other option if they want to donate something to a school and not go through the foundation, so they can make sure that the school actually receives what they want to donate?
Great question. That, Ms. Terry?
We do currently have trust accounts where people can donate it, and it flows through Business Plus, the finance department, for different funding. Just as we indicated specifically, if someone was an alumni of Sumner and they want to leave the money with Sumner, that does flow through the finance department.
Is it on the website so people will know? Like if I clicked on the website and I was just mom out there and I wanted to leave something, in a will or something to the district?
No, those are included in our trust funds, and they're not listed on the website anywhere.
So people, regular folks on the street would know how to go about donating on the web, just by getting on the website?
I don't believe so this time.
Thank you.
I got you. Understood. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make a note that it doesn't look like donor disclosure is in the MOA at all. So I share Board Secretary Jones' concerned about not knowing. Given the climate generally around education in St. Louis, I think it's probably good that we know where money's coming in from. So.
So at this time, what we're asking, it seems like it came from Vice President Davis as an ask for the foundation to come and provide a presentation to the board.
Thank you. We'll make that happen.
Because Mr. Holliday just having technical difficulties right now. So, thank you. Tell him thank you. We'll talk to him later. Where are we at? See, this is not working. Okay. that it? We did the items for discussion. You have travelers risk control.
Yes. I just wanted to bring to the board's attention the fact that there was an, I would say, an audit in 2021 with some findings, and we would need to make sure that we are able to correct those findings. That would require funding, and now we have new recommendations in 2025. And so again, I just want to say that those findings were in 2021 over at Beaumont. And I just want to bring awareness to the board that this is something that we will be working on.
So you're basically saying you're working on findings from the 2021 year.
Thank you so much for picking up what I was putting down.
Is that a part of the Reuben Brown audit, or that's part of the state audit?
This is actually from our insurance.
Oh, from the insurance, okay. Okay. You have some items for information for us?
Yes, on March 14th, which is also known as Pi Day, our students are currently in a reading challenge as a part of Literacy for the Loop. And so from February 24th through March 10th, I believe they are reading. And those students who read up to 314 minutes will be invited to participate in a movie day with the superintendent. And so the cost for the license for the movie, I want to say it is in here, and it is just for information only. And immediately after that, we will then be moving right into our meeting as it relates to reimagining St. Louis Public Schools.
You also have the January bank statements and credit card, P-card. Is there any questions regarding that? Appears that you have the management statement, travel code, credit card usage, and the supporting documentation to go with it. Is there any questions or discussions regarding this for January and February statements? Seeing none, we're going to go on to action, items for action.
At this time, there are no items for action.
Does this say I can adjourn? With that, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn open session and go into closed session pursuant to 610021 and subsections for discussion of personnel, legal, and real estate matters.
Second.
Ms. Vaughn.
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
We are adjourned to close